And welcome in. We are back. Marvel, Friends After Work, with a new friend today. Yes, we as always, here, myself, Nick, we have Joel, but we have non-Casey, we have Brian. Welcome, Brian. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. This is a lot of fun.
Hell yeah, it's going to be a ton of fun. We're going to talk about the Marvels, and I cannot wait. It has been like 3 weeks. We have delayed this episode week after week after week due to whatever it may be. I believe Casey is right now jumping multiverse to multiverse to see if we can get the best. She's trying to figure out the best universe for us to go to where Jonathan Majors just has everything wiped clean and nothing happens, and the trial that goes non-public, I think you told me that, Joel, tomorrow, no one's going to be able to see what's happening. It's just done, gone forever. So when she finds that universe, we'll all be going to that. For now, we're stuck in the sacred timeline, which does have Jonathan Majors going to trial tomorrow. So before we get into the Marvels, I did want to ask just kind of our thoughts on this, because it's a bit much. Like, do we think all goes well? Are we afraid of what's going to happen? There's been rumors that Marvel is trying to pivot away from Jonathan Majors and lean more into like the Doctor Doom to be the bad guy, even though they have Kang Dynasty ready, the name ready to go, and all that. Joel, I'll start with you. Are you worried? Are you excited about the trial like happening, like just getting it done? Like, thoughts?
I mean, I'm definitely ready for this to come to a head, whatever happens, so they can make their decision. I mean, obviously, if it goes bad for them, they're probably going to cut him out of being in most of the stuff coming up, but I don't think that's detrimental. I mean, Kang is definitely in the comics and plays a part, but if they're going into this Secret Wars stuff, then really they can pretty easily shift into Doom being the big bad, and I don't think it'll be that seamless of a deal. I mean, we've got a couple things already that have addressed Kang, and other than the Kang Dynasty, that's the only thing that I don't know if they'd recast him or whatever, but
which, even if they need to get rid of Kang, like losing the TM on Kang Dynasty and getting a new name is not the worst thing in the world. Brian, what are your thoughts on Jonathan Majors and the upcoming trial?
So, I mean, Marvel invested a lot behind Majors. I mean, he's the hot guy out, you know what I mean? Creed 3, Lovecraft Country. So, they were expecting him to carry this, phase moving forward. But I have to say, I do think that if they do pivot and go in a different direction, I don't think it's going to be much of an issue. As we've talked about variants, and we see, that Rhodey has been recast, Banner has been recast. Like it's one of those things, like once we see the new Kang, we'll get over it, so I don't think it's going to be that impactful. I hate to see it happen. I would have, I wish he wasn't in this, issue, didn't get himself in this, but we'll see how it all unfolds. If he's innocent in enough time where Disney doesn't feel they have to make a decision quickly, then maybe he, survives and moves forward with it. But if not, I don't think it's going to be, I think we'll get over the initial shock.
So that leads me to a question, because I guess what I thought was, if Jonathan Majors, if something comes about where Marvel doesn't want to move forward with Jonathan Majors, I just kind of assumed that Kang would be written out. They would just kind of be done with his story. They would do something to write it out. But you're implying that you think it would be a new casting, a shift in casting and a new person to continue the Kang story. Joel, I'll go to you. Would you prefer, if we'll just say hypothetically, if Jonathan Majors becomes in trouble and Marvel doesn't want to have anything to do with him anymore, do you think they would recast? I guess not even do you think. Do you want them to recast like Jonathan Majors and get a new Kang in there? Or would you just prefer them to wipe the slate of Kang and move forward with a whole new story and everything and just get rid of Kang?
I think I'd rather them recast it. I mean, Brian, like you said, variants all over the place. They can look just a little bit different here or there. They can look completely ridiculous different. They could be an alligator. So I'm okay with them recasting them. It's not going to shock me for them to do it, but I would rather them at least finish out that storyline, give it some kind of a conclusion before they move on to the next story.
Brian, agree or disagree?
I agree. And I think they need that conclusion as well, too. If they were to just, go in a completely different direction storyline wise, it would just feel so incomplete. Just move forward. We all know what this Kang Dynasty is about, with the comics. So, finish it out. Get a new actor in there. If they even considered it for Chadwick Boseman, even though they didn't go in that direction, but the fact that it was even tossed out there about having a variant or Killmonger or somebody like that popping in the film, they can certainly do it for Jonathan Majors.
Okay, so we don't want things incomplete. Oh, what were you going to say,
To
Joel?
be honest, we need some redemption for Quantumania. I mean,
Yes.
I want to see the badass Kang. I don't want to just have a Kang that got defeated by ants.
Dude,
So,
me neither. And we're not here to talk about Ant-Man Quantumania. That's a whole nother conversation. We don't want incomplete storylines. So let's talk about the Marvels, because after Captain Marvel, shit was pretty incomplete. We didn't know what the hell was happening with the Skrulls. We didn't know what was going on anytime, anywhere. They brought up Secret Invasion to kind of try to, I don't know, piece some stuff together before we got into the Marvels. Okay, so before we even get into the movie, I want to know, now that we've all seen it, we can all talk about it, we've all had time to digest it. Same thing with Secret Invasion. Did this movie, and Brian, I guess I don't know your exact thoughts on Secret Invasion, but here, Joel and I were both very let down by this show. So I want to know, and I'm going to start with you, Brian. Did this movie make Secret Invasion better? Did it not do anything, or did it even make it worse because of like what we saw from Nick Fury in the Marvels and what we saw him in Secret Invasion? And what did you think about Secret Invasion as a whole in general?
Yeah, that's what it was.
So Secret Invasion, I hate to overstate this, it's probably one of the worst pieces of Marvel content. I thought it had an opportunity to be that thriller spy show. You're bringing back Nick Fury. We haven't seen him in a while, and I just felt so let down. Like there was nothing. The direction that they went in just seemed so convoluted, and by the end of it, I'm thinking, I didn't need to watch this show. Like, you didn't provide anything to me. Like, we know Skrulls exist, and Rhodey's arc, like, depending on when that Skrull took over Rhodey, that made no sense at all. Like,
Civil War.
I have way too many questions.
Way too many. That's funny.
But
so what did you think? Yeah, did the Marvels push that up at all? Did that help? Did that like kind of make it okay? Well, now I see a little bit here, or were you just like, no, because that show played nothing to do with this movie?
Yeah, I think it was such a letdown. I don't think it impacted, Secret Invasion at all. I think it felt as irrelevant as it was when I watched it, And so I just kind of took the Marvels for its own piece of content. And, the Marvels was an enjoyable film. I know we'll get more into that. But as far as Secret Invasion, disappointment and the Marvels didn't impact it much for me at all.
Joel?
We'll start with the Secret Invasion side of things, whether it helped it or not. I definitely think it did not help it at all, except for maybe the last episode, like the very end of the last episode, where you see the president's kind of starting to respond to there being too many aliens on the planet, and it seems like they're taking a hard stance against aliens, specifically probably going to be Asgard. So I think that'll be pretty cool to see if we go in like a siege direction, Siege of Asgard direction. And I think that's one thing that actually kind of they touched on or hinted at in the movie. And that's like the only thing. Other than that, you didn't have to watch Secret Invasion at all. It didn't even make sense other than that.
It was terrible. I don't want to sit here and bash Secret Invasion. We've done that for 6 of our episodes. I don't want to do it anymore. I want to talk about the Marvels, guys. I went into this with extremely low expectations. I just did. I didn't care for Miss Marvel. I liked Captain Marvel, the movie, a lot more recently. I honestly liked it a lot more right before the Secret Invasion. I watched it and was like, ooh, okay, this movie is actually really cool, and they could turn this into an awesome show, which they didn't end up doing, but I thought that was really good. But upon first watch, Captain Marvel was not that great to me. Monica Rambeau, Photon, did not move the needle for me at all in WandaVision, at all. I was nothing about her that I cared about at all. Like, everyone else in that show was awesome. I didn't care about her. So I went into this movie with extremely low expectations. I went with my daughter. I went with my wife. I was like, they should really enjoy this movie. Juliana, my daughter, loves Miss Marvel, the show. So she loves Captain Marvel. So like, this will be great for her. I left that movie laughing my ass off, damn near rolling on the floor laughing throughout this movie because of the funny scenes. And I think they leaned more into the funniness like Watiti films, like the last couple Thor films, which was okay with me because I didn't need to see this egregious big battle between these three ladies. I liked the comedic part that they brought from the movie. I liked that we saw Brie Larson be a lot more what's the word I'm looking for? More just relatable, more like just a better,
more of a character all around,
They
like
wrote her
emotion.
really well. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I was extremely happy with this movie because of the low expectations that I had. So it surpassed it way more than I can't remember what did we say the critic score was, like 58% or something like that. It was just god awful.
Started out that low, yeah.
And I'm super happy that the critic score went up because I am right there with the critics where I was very pleased by this movie. That's my kind of overall, before we start nitpicking everything, my overall base of this was it was really good. I think because I kind of set low expectations, whereas Ant-Man Quantumanium, I set very high expectations and it just bombed for me. So I want to know, and Joel, I'll start with you. Overall, I mean, if you want to get into some specific details on why or whatnot, that's fine. But just overall, what did you think of the Marvels?
So Brian used the word earlier, enjoyable, and I think that's the nail on the head. I thought it was just like it was exactly what you want to go see when you see a superhero movie. You want to be entertained, you want to see some stuff. It's fun. Yeah, it wasn't bad by any means. The only thing that I personally didn't like that, everybody else might have liked was the song Planet. I don't like musicals, so you could have just cut out, like, if I would have known that was there, I would have just went to the bathroom for like 10 minutes and come back in and been like, this movie was so much better. But
Okay, Brian, overall thoughts on the Marvels?
Overall thoughts. So, going into the movie, I didn't have the highest of expectations, but I left the film thinking, I was entertained by it. That's not necessarily a compliment, but it's also not a diss. I think there's a lot of enjoyable moments. I thought the choreography of the fight scenes were great, but they certainly took some risks that I knew watching it, like, this can fall flat to the majority. Like, like the song Planet that you talk about, Joel, I'm watching it and I'm like, let me try my best to enjoy this because it is eating at me right now. Like, I don't know if I really like this. But I will say, Nick, because I know you made a comment earlier about not really caring for Miss Marvel, but I personally believe that if it were not for Iman Vellani, this movie would not have worked. Because that kid element that she brings in, the goofiness, that's what made that singing Planet and the other goofy things that they did in this movie blend in and not seem so out of place. If you remove her from that, I don't think it works as well.
100% agree, and that's where I was going to go to next was Miss Marvel. And I guess I should clarify, I didn't like the show. I loved her in this movie. I left this movie like thinking Monica Rambeau, still don't really care for her. Unfortunately, Photon just ain't for me. It is what it is. It is what it is. But Captain Marvel really boosted her ratings for me, her likeness, in my opinion. But Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, holy smokes, guys. She had me laugh. The way she delivered her lines, the way she gushed and fangirled over these people, it was outstanding. The way she looked in the fight scene, sometimes when it comes to like Cassie Lang, I thought was terrible when it looked like she was trying to fight in Ant-Man. Like, it was, I didn't care for her at all. I didn't care for her character in that movie. But Miss Marvel was the star of the show. It's undoubtedly. So I want to ask, have either of you even contemplated rewatching the show Miss Marvel since we saw how good of a role she played in this movie? Either of you?
No, only because I watched it right before the movie, and I feel like that's enough. I mean, it's a very enjoyable story. It's it's not meant necessarily for me to be watching it. It's probably for younger ages and stuff, but it is enjoyable and it's good. doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because there's a bunch of stuff that they just kind of like skipped over in that storyline. But for sure, her in this movie, it would not have been as good of a movie if there wasn't that element in there. Because you either would have had the bigger characters taking themselves a little too seriously. It's like a chance for the audience to be like, all right, so this is your chance to step back and you can laugh at the fact that this is going on and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can just be a fanboy, fangirl.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Hang
Brian, are
out
you
with
going
Kamala
home
Khan.
and are you rewatching Miss Marvel at all after this movie?
So if I were to watch anything from Miss Marvel, it would be the one scene where he says, "You have a mutation," and they play the X-Men
The
thing.
literal
That's
last
probably the
scene
only
of the
thing.
show. The
Da-da-da-da-da.
last scene of the show. He's like, all right, I'll rewatch that. And then I'll see Captain Marvel
Yeah.
dive into her closet. Okay, all right. I know that's it.
But that's about it.
That's about all you really need to watch from that show. We're going to jump all around. So if you were listening to this movie or watching, please, and thank you if you are watching or listening, we are not just going in order. We're going to jump to the very end now. Speaking of X-Men.
Okay.
Speaking of fucking X-Men.
Jumping right to it.
We are jumping right to it because it was the second coolest thing, in my opinion, about this movie. And I'll get to the coolest thing after this. But the second coolest, Kelsey Grammer, CGI beast right in there, dude. What did we think of this mid-credit scene? Were we all about it? Hopefully, if we did know before, that, like when you actually saw it, or were you like, yes, it's happening? Or were you kind of like, I don't really care for that? Brian, why don't you start us off?
So, this made the movie, it elevated it a notch for me. So, and obviously I understand that the end credit scene didn't have much to do with this movie per se, more so as what to expect maybe in the future on, a parallel Earth or, whatever the case is. But, not seeing Kelsey Grammer since, the 2003, 2006 X-Men movies, which I thought he was the perfect casting for his voice, that nobody talks like Hank McCoy like Kelsey does. And so I didn't like the way he looked back in the past, but in this movie, CGI made perfect sense. And X-Men is, yes, the fact, absolutely. And for me, X-Men is that's my favorite, group, when it comes to Marvel Comics. And so just being able to see, and I was surprised, didn't hear any leaks. So seeing him on screen it let me know, okay, now we're getting to that point. We might get the X-Men in here. And that's what I was hoping for. So it was a great thing to see. I'll let you guys go and then I got some more to add to it.
All right, Joel, what do you thought? You saw this? I think you saw it before.
I did unfortunately get it spoiled because Reddit. Thanks, Reddit. They just had it like the screen was his face, and I was like, so that's Hank McCoy. That's Kelsey Grammer's Hank McCoy because it looks exactly like him. Except that he had the underbite. Yeah.
Are we getting video? You can't really see.
Yeah, I can see it. It's blurry, but I can see it.
Yeah. That's my guy right here. Okay.
But I saw that and like tried to scroll up and get away from it immediately. But I was like, okay, that's awesome. They're gonna do something with the X-Men. There was kind of that teaser trailer where they left the X in, so everybody was assuming something was gonna happen. But are we just talking about the Kelsey Grammer beast? Or are we talking about?
Sure. Let's stick just to that and what you hope comes from it, what you think might come from it, or just were you excited? And we can move on.
I'm very excited. I love that they tied that in, so at least it connects to, is that X2 that he's in? Anyways, he's the original X trilogy, and I also hope that they tie it into the X-Men 97 because the character looks like him. They got it comic accurate with the underbite. Yeah. Yes, super excited. Give me some X-Men.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I just the X-Men in the 90s was what I grew up on. Like I remember buying the bootleg version of the cartoon with the logo in the bottom right corner, but that's something I've watched countless times. So just being able to get a good version of them, because obviously X-Men was the first like big movie, came out in 2000. It was before the Spider-Mans, obviously after Blade. And it was all we had, from a standard standpoint. And then Spider-Man came out, and it's like, oh, Spider-Man, they're doing it a little bit better. And I just want a quality X-Men movie. My favorite character is Colossus. I've always hoped, oh, let's bring him back and then do him in a better way. And obviously with Marvel Entertainment and with Disney, this is, we're going to get the right version of these characters. And that's what I'm looking forward to. Obviously, we got the little tease with Patrick Stewart and Multiverse, So now I'm excited. I'm ready to see what we can do with the X-Men.
Yes.
So did you like Colossus and Deadpool then? If that's exactly the Deadpool that they're going to bring in?
So I enjoyed him better
to floss your teeth. They'll keep them. But brush your teeth once a day.
They made him too goofy for me. Like I liked him better physically than he was in X-Men United and The Last Stand. But I think I got you, buddy. But I think they have an opportunity to do him even better. Like he was a little bit goofy. Plus, we never got to see him in the Peter Rasputin form. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping we get the best of both worlds. Let's give me a better. It can be a CGI appearance, with a bigger build, because he was the size of Wolverine, and Wolverine's supposed to be small in the X-Men movies, But yeah, so we'll see. I'm excited with it.
Do we think this means that we are we've heard the rumors and we've seen some of the pictures leaked from the new Deadpool movie that's going to be coming? Do we think this shows us that we are going to be getting a good amount of old X-Men characters and old superheroes from the Fox Marvel universe, I guess, however they want to say that, in the Deadpool movie? To me, this staples it. This is yep, that is what they're doing in Deadpool, and I'm very excited for it. Do we agree or no?
For sure. Yeah, I think they're going to be able to pick kind of who they want from these different parallel universes, and hopefully from the comic era universe, because I don't know why else they'd be continuing X-Men 97 other than to just give you a simplified comic storyline and then bring those characters into live action with whoever they choose to fill them in.
Gotcha. Yeah,
absolutely. Deadpool has the opportunity to just overdo it with fan service, and we are okay with it because of the tone of that movie. And I think they're going to take full advantage of the time traveling, the variants. We're going to see countless characters. They may even throw in a Channing Tatum gambit. You know what I mean? Like they might go in some crazy direction. Maybe we might get Chris Evans as Johnny Storm. You never know.
I hear there's a chance of that, and that's what I think what the fans' reaction to No Way Home showed Feige and Marvel, that it was like, okay, if we need to just make money, we can put out these projects that maybe don't sell $1 billion on opening weekend, but that's okay because we have these other movies that we can just upload a ton of old fan service. We can do a bunch of fan service, and we can get all these old characters in, and everyone will just lose their mind for it. That's great. It stinks to me that Marvel kind of has to rely on that, and it's not even that Marvel has to. It's just that the fans have come to now expect these huge cameos and these huge team ups and all this stuff, where if you just have a solo movie, it gets critically ridden down to the ground and it just sucks. Blah blah blah. It's not good, but at the same time, I'm very okay with a ton of cameos and a ton of people coming in the Deadpool movie. So I'm okay with that. And we don't have a ton of time in this episode. We might have to have an episode 2. So I want to just get past that. I know we're all excited for the new Deadpool and X-Men 97 coming out. They also need to redo Earth's Mightiest Heroes. I don't understand how that's not on the bucket list right now. It's freaking annoying. But anyway,
cut it off.
Let's talk about kids. Let's talk about the Young Avengers. Kamala Khan basically memorizes, I'm not 100% sure, but says basically what Fury said to Tony Stark, word for word-ish, to Kate Bishop. I'm going to start this off because this was my favorite part of this fucking movie. I have been waiting for fucking
post-credits, your favorite part of the entire movie.
It probably was. Just as Iron Man was good, it was when Nick Fury comes in and says we have a thing called the Avengers Initiative. This is what's fucking cool. This is what's building up, and I want to see Avenger movies. There hasn't been an Avenger movie since Endgame. I don't care if it's not Tony Stark and Captain America and Hawkeye and all those. And if it's a whole new team, that's great. I just want to see a Marvel movie, and I think the Young Avengers can lead us there. I did not expect there to be a Young Avengers idea or even like mentioned throughout this movie. I've been waiting for it, and we heard it when young Hulk got here, and we have it with Kate Bishop, and we had it with Casey. Like, all this conversation, all this talk has always happened. It's been feeding me, just exciting me every day, yet nothing, no talk about it at all. And then we finally get it at the end of this movie. She meets up with Kate Bishop, great cameo, along with other Young Avengers that can happen. I'm super, 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 super excited. That's me personally. I was also very excited for MODOK after Ant-Man, so I'm okay with being disagreed with. I saw Brian's face there. We'll have to do an Ant-Man show with Brian so we can talk about it. But are you guys just as excited as I am for the Young Avengers initiative happening, or are you kind of like, meh, I don't really care about it? And we'll start with Brian.
So I am excited for it. I don't necessarily know if the plan is to put it on the big screen or if it's to turn it into a bunch of smaller, Disney Plus properties, maybe some episodes. I'm not sure if, and I get it. Like, obviously we want to see this on the big screen, but I don't know if that'll be the case. I enjoy, Kate Bishop's character. I like that Hawkeye series. I like, Miss Marvel. Who knows if maybe we get, if it's in a couple years, T'Challa is magically, 18 years old and is a part of it. Maybe Spider-Man is the head of them and pops in to give it that, that legitimacy. But yeah.
Oh, you're muted. But while you're mute yourself. We'll let Joel go. Joel, what do you got about Young Avengers?
So it's funny, and I need to find the clip, but there's a point where you were like, Young Avengers, spare me. And I'm going to find that clip.
If you
I know that it exists, because you totally were not excited about it at one point. But now that it's here, now you're on board, and I'm on board with it as well. I don't love the team that they've got so far because it's just 3 of them. But Kamala, I'm all about. Love her. Kate Bishop as Hawkeye. She'll grow on me. She could do better. Cassie Lang as, I don't know if they said she's stature or whatever, but Cassie Lang as a character, they got to do something with her. So I would like it as a Disney Plus show, though. For them
boo!
I really would.
Bro,
I think I'd prefer it that way.
Bro, give me the movie. I'll spend my $15 and I'll go to the theater to watch it. I do not want to watch 6 weeks of it.
You can make them slowly join the team. It'd be like the original Avengers movie where you're spending like 15 minutes picking up each person and then you're seeing them work together. So
pretty good idea.
First episode could be like half the team. Second episode could be the other half the team. And then you see them all working together and how they don't quite match because they're not the same people, because nobody's the same and they all have their own views, especially if they revisit this whole thing. I really have a theory that they're going to revisit the Civil War idea. So hopefully in Daredevil, they're going to do like a Sokovia Accords, but revisited, and they're going to actually do the Superhuman Registration Act. So you can see what all these new characters think about it, and I'm sure they're going to choose their own sides. And basically a Civil War 2, but more of a Civil War 1 that they should have done in the first place.
Do you think Iron Lad shows up in the Young Avengers if everything goes well with like King and they keep him in and all of that? Do we get or is it Iron Lad? Yeah, it's Iron Lad. Young King, right?
Yeah. What's going on over there? What's going on over there?
He's getting mad, dude. Your son's like, no, fuck that, bro.
What does he have to say about the Young Avengers?
Yeah, what does he have to say? Come on.
He's trying to open his Bluey toy over here. He broke in the room and saw his Christmas gifts and was like, oh, you better open this now.
Oh, no.
Talking about superheroes, dude. Bluey's a superhero. I'll tell you guys that right now, bro.
He is.
Iron Lad, Brian, you think he's showing up in Young Avengers or no?
I do. And also, the name escapes me from the Black Panther sequel.
Shuri?
Riri.
Oh, Ironheart.
Um,
Yeah. Riri.
Yes,
Mhm.
Ironheart. I could see them bringing her into it as well. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like they'll use anybody that they can. But the issue that I have is that are any of these characters enough to like command people at the box office? And I don't know that they necessarily are, which is why I do think ultimately it ends up on Disney Plus.
So speaking of commanding the box office, do we think the Marvels got such a low? We're completely switching, so just stay with me here because we only have like 5 minutes left. Do we think the Marvels got really bad reviews because it's female led, because it's three females and it's a huge female led movie, or do we think otherwise? Because I personally think that it was the females, and I think when we talk about the Young Avengers, and like you said, does it have anyone to really grasp the audience? Right now it's three females, and unfortunately, and it's, I don't want it to sound bad, but it's just, I think it's the realistic part of it, is that Marvel kind of depends on its male superheroes. It always has, kind of always will, and you can sprinkle the Black Widows and the Wandas in there, but realistically it's a male dominant uh I don't even know what universe, I guess, or whatever the hell you want to call it. Do you think that
Patriarchy.
with it being Kamala Khan, Monica Rambeau, and Carol Danvers as the lead in this movie, that is one of the main reasons that it was bad? Or do we think just the movie itself wasn't good enough, and that's why people didn't like it? Joel, we'll start with you.
I mean, yeah, you can definitely blame the patriarchy. That's a real thing. And women make, I think it's 10% less, whatever. So you could just assume that it's that, and that they would make 10% less regardless. But also, the movie wasn't like, it wasn't perfect. It was enjoyable for sure. It was definitely a good. I enjoyed my time there. It was not like going to see Thor 2 in theaters where I was like, what the hell did I just watch? I was very disappointed by Thor 2. This was so much better than that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I do think that made an effect on it.
It's a tough
But
conversation to have. I understand. It's hard to politically answer this question, but it just kind of is what it is. Brian, do you have any thoughts on this?
So, in the spirit of the Marvels, I'm going to answer this question in song. No, I think
I was waiting for you to bust out a
a whole
song.
new world with three fantastic Marvel characters.
Yeah, see, there you go, Joel. You lying son of a bitch. You love musicals. Don't even fucking lie to me, bro.
I just
Brian,
feel like they made, like I said, watching the movie, even though there were a lot of parts I enjoyed, I knew at the end of the day that it was going to tank. I knew that it was going to have that high 70% drop off from opening week to week two, just because it's like you really have to be invested like in these specific characters and love the Miss Marvel show to even give it a chance. Like my cousin, for example, he grew up with me watching, the X-Men cartoon in the 90s, all the, the Marvel movies day one. And I could tell, to your point about it being a woman-led cast, I could tell that there was something that was like, he wasn't as excited, because I'm like, man, you haven't said this before since the first Captain Marvel. You know what I mean? But I can't put it all on that, because Wonder Woman did better than, well, Wonder Woman 2 was terrible. But you know what I mean? So it's like, if the script is good, it can be it can do well at the box office, but I don't think it's ever going to quite hit the same levels as our other movies, unfortunately. But I do think that the movie kind of stood in its own way, to be honest.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit more about this movie because we've kind of jumped around. What do we think about the very beginning fight scene where everyone's switching places and they have that sweet song playing? I don't remember what it is, but it's like wop 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 wop. I don't know, it's fucking awesome. But what do we think about that? Everyone switching places. It was really cool, in my opinion. I loved it. That immediately got me just like hooked in. It was funny to see Carol Danvers' reactions every time she switched. Miss Marvel's reactions were obviously hilarious. Her seeing Nick Fury was hilarious. The Flurkin was hilarious. It was all just great, in my opinion, in that switching fight scene. Did we agree or did we not care for it? We'll start with Joel.
I loved it. Yeah, the quantum entanglement was probably the most interesting aspect of it. They never really explained it. My headcanon is that when they used powers at the same time, that's what caused them to switch, which I think is what they were trying to sync up on the ship. but they never really addressed that. But it's a cool extra thing to add into it instead of them just teaming up. They've got to get on the same page, both emotionally. They got to get rid of their shit, and they got to get on the same page physically.
Brian?
Yeah, no, I enjoyed that. I thought again, back to like the choreography of the fighting and, just how, the quantum entanglement, as you put it, Joel, like that was the most interesting aspect of the movie. I did like the villain too, to be completely honest. I thought that she did a good job, but at the end of the day, like I left the movie and it was still a little bit forgettable for me. You know what I mean? Like the action scenes carried the movie. And the comedy, aside from the singing planet thing, I think were some of the positives of the film. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good things about it. I can't just hate on it.
Rapid fire here. Brian, thoughts on Captain Marvel being called Annihilator many times in this movie? Any thoughts at all?
I do like that just because it gave a different perspective. It's kind of like the whole thoughts of the Batman versus Superman, where it's like Superman is saving the world, but he doesn't realize he's knocking over buildings while fighting Zod, and there's a different perspective of people on the ground. So I do like that they added that. I feel like they kind of took that same, thought process, and it kept her from being just this glorified hero, all powerful. Like it brought her down to earth and gave us another dynamic to say like, hey, maybe there are some character flaws.
Love it. Joel, rapid fire. Valkyrie makes an appearance in this movie. Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it?
I did, because that was the part that tied in when I was talking about with Secret Invasion, them having too many aliens. At the very end of it, it seems like they're leading towards siege, and I think it's all going to come to a head here shortly, hopefully.
It seems like if Asgard could get a little place in New Zealand or wherever they are in wherever, it seems like we could have done something for the Skrulls, but it is what it is. Iceland, thank you. I do want to go to Iceland too. They got direct routes from Detroit to Iceland now. We very sure way. Third worst rated movie. Do you guys think that it was the third worst MCU movie, or can you name at least 3 movies that are worse than it? Start with Brian.
So The Dark World is probably the worst Marvel movie. I'm trying to think. I need my list in front of me, but I have to say I was so disappointed with Quantumania that it fell really low on the list. I actually, matter of fact, when I saw the Marvels, I said I think I like the Marvels more than I like Quantumania. MODOK was a disaster, but we won't get into that. And then I'm trying to think what are some of the other ones. The original
Hulk.
Was that? Yeah.
I said there's the Eternals, there's Hulk, there's Thor 1, Iron Man 3, Iron Man 2. These are kind of like
Iron
the
Man,
ones.
Yeah. Iron Man just progressively got worse. Whereas at least this movie, you could argue is better than the first one. Not to say that that's right or not, but you could at least argue it. Whereas so I guess if they were to go in another direction and maybe make a third one, at least, you could say, hey, it's trending in a straight line.
Neutral. Yeah.
It's going. All right, Joel, can you name, do you think this is the third worst MCU movie?
No. Thor 2 is definitely up there. Iron Man 3, other than it kind of gives you a backstory for Man-Thing. And third one, probably the Hulk. Honestly, I wasn't a huge fan of the original Captain America. I mean, it's got its points that tie everything in, but that was a little slow.
All right. Did we think this movie was better or worse than Love and Thunder? Brian.
Love and Thunder was a bit all over the place, but I think it has the advantage of Chris Hemsworth and Thor. Like that character, even though Thor 2 was so bad, this movie had, like, I love the black and white sequence. I thought that was great. Like, it's great. That was a great touch. And Christian Bale was a very creepy villain. Like I enjoyed that. But the movie, I think, was more of a miss, but I still think it might be better than the Marvels, to be completely honest.
Joel?
I think it was fun. I mean, Ragnarok's probably one of my favorite movies. So that, considering this just like rides on the coattails of that, I think that, yeah.
Yeah, I also think Love and Thunder was better than the Marvels, but not by much. I did like it. I do think the Marvels was better than Ant-Man Quantumania. I did like last scene we'll talk about the movie when all of the kittens get to eat all the people and they were like, stop running and let the kittens eat you. That was great. What did we think of the Flurkins, of Goose, of the kittens eating people to transport them? Thoughts?
It's the best part of it. That was
Cool.
the entire scene that was going on. I was just laughing, and then they're like intentionally taking the cats and pointing them at people like they're weapons, just like bloop, 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 and then just like throwing the kitten into the pods, and the pods are like rotating out in space, and the kittens are getting sick and start throwing back up all of the people. I thought it was so fucking.
That was great. Brian, thoughts on that scene?
Love me some Flurkins. I'm telling you that scene in the original Captain Marvel, like Goose was he's adorable. You know what I mean? Or she, you know. But in this
2023, movie, it's they now. I'm pretty sure.
My bad.
I'm pretty sure it just goes by that.
Yeah, no, that was such a funny scene, and I love that they put that in there. That fit the tone of the movie for me. You know what I mean? That comical slow motion as they're getting away. Like I love that. I thought that was a great touch.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I hope you guys liked this episode, watching or listening. If you haven't seen The Marvels yet and you are excited to see it now after this, please go see it. Please make sure you like, subscribe, thank us, everything, or not thank us. What the fuck did I say that? Thank you guys. Like, subscribe to our show. We're on Reddit. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitter. We're on everything. Brian, dude, thank you so much for joining the show today. It was awesome having you on.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys, for having me. I appreciate it.
Welcome,
of course, buddy. And everybody, till next time, go Marvel.
Go Marvel.
Go Marvel.